Well, the answer is obvious. Cholent is tasty, and there's nothing like a Shabbos afternoon nap after a nice hot serving of cholent. But more on a serious note, because there's a mitzvah to honor the Shabbos with delicious foods, including hot food, and it is forbidden to cook on Shabbos. So the only practical way of having a hot dish on Shabbos is having it prepared before Shabbos and put on the fire before Shabbos and remain hot over Shabbos to enable us to eat a hot dish on Shabbos. But the origins and the meaning of why we eat cholent goes much more than this practical reason. It dates back to the Second Temple era, 17 CE. At that time, there was a group called the Sadducees. That group denied in the divine origin of the oral tradition, the oral law, Torah Sheba'al Peh. They only believed in the written text. They had their own interpretation of the written text. Now, one of their interpretations concerned the laws of Shabbat. The text of the Torah says, "Lo sava'aru eish b'chol moshvatechem b'yom HaShabbat." You shall not burn any fire in all your dwellings on Shabbat. The Sadducees understood this, that it is forbidden to have any fire burning during the time of Shabbat, even if it was kindled before Shabbat. Therefore, they used to sit in the dark at Friday night, sit in the cold over Shabbat, and only eat cold food. However, according to the oral tradition, the meaning of this verse means that one may not kindle on Shabbat a fire. However, one may kindle a fire before Shabbat and keep it burning over Shabbat. So the other sect, called the Pharisees, which literally means the separationists, which were loyal and believed in the divine origin of the oral tradition, wanted to separate themselves from the Sadducees and show their allegiance to the oral tradition. They specifically had a hot dish on Shabbos by putting it on the fire, kindling a fire before Shabbos, putting it on the fire before Shabbos, and have it cook over Shabbos, and eat it on Shabbat. Just to point out, these Sadducees shouldn't be confused with the sect called the Karaites. The Karaites emerged between the 7th and 9th centuries, and they maintain to be a novel sect, even though there are similarities between them and the Sadducees in the fact that they both deny in the oral tradition. However, there are many major differences. In our discussion, we are referring to the Sadducees. Now, what is the origin of and the meaning of the word cholent? Well, there are many attempts to explain it. I'll share with you some of them. One of them is based on the Hebrew word shelanu, which means that rested over. Others say it comes from the French words chulot, which means hot, slow. A popular Sephardic term for cholent is, especially in Israel, is chamin, which means hot dish. Some Arabic terms for cholent is sachina, diminutive of the word hot, or dafina, diminutive of the word buried, echoing the Talmudic phrase, they buried the hot food. It's also interesting to note that because of the cooking requirements of cholent, that was the inspiration for the invention of the slow cooker. Now, just to conclude with some practical advice on how to prepare cholent to fit into halachic guidelines, because there are many halachic laws pertaining to preparing cholent and keeping cholent over Shabbos. I'll just share with you two simple, straightforward options that fit into halachic guidelines. One is that you cook the cholent fully before Shabbat and put it on a hot plate or a warmer before Shabbat to keep it warm over Shabbat. A second option is to use a crock pot, specifically a crock pot, a slow cooker. The ingredients can be raw as long as there is meat or chicken in the ingredients. And you put the slow cooker on, advisably on low, right before you light Shabbat candles, and let it cook overnight to be ready for the next day. We wish you a wonderful Shabbat and enjoy your cholent.